My three things that you must do with your calendar.
Fantastic.
First of all, every morning, plan your day. Every evening, review your day and plan the next day. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And then have breaks in the morning, afternoon, and a lunch. That way.
Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset. Everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer. Be sure to head over to clicksandbricksacademy.com so you can access all the resources to start improving your sales today.
Welcome back to Clicks and Bricks. Today we have Joe with Brainshare with us. I'm super excited about this. When Joe and I grew up in pretty similar neighborhoods right down the street from each other, so I'm super excited to have him on the show. But before we bring Joe on, if you'd like to join my text line community, it's 314-370-2871. Just ask me any question about business or technology, and I'll give you an unbiased, absolutely free answer. No obligation at all. How you doing today, Joe?
Ken, thank you. It's an honor and privilege to be here. What an exciting time.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you on the show. But the audience doesn't know this, but we actually scheduled this a couple weeks ago, and we had all kinds of technical difficulties. But Joe and I had a great time just hanging out and shooting the talk about history and growing up in the little town of Arnold, Missouri that we both grew up in. Joe, can you tell the audience a little about yourself and your business and how you got started in this industry?
Absolutely. So I'll give you the whole rundown, Ken. I was born in France, raised in Arnold, Missouri, as you know, grew up in South Korea, and live out in California now. I spent 6 years in the United States Army. Those are my Distinguished Honor Graduate Leadership Award from the Academy. And then I went to work for a little company called Hewlett-Packard, a phenomenal career, 25 years, started out as an engineer, helped start the first call center, sales, marketing, operations. My claim to fame was I ran the global services operation and retired in 2007 to go buy my island and make it a scuba diving resort. Well, 2008 hit, and all of a sudden, all my investments kind of, and so I decided in 2008 to start helping businesses. And so that's when I started into the coaching business. And I struggled really, really hard until I purchased a system called Action Coach, and still struggled, and then actually got my coach that helped me pivot and move things forward. And now I pivoted to Brainshare, which is all about creating a successful business, which is a profitable enterprise that works without you. And I've been doing that for the last 11 years. And my goal in life is to help 2,000 businesses every single year. And I've been doing that the last 9 years.
Wow, 2,000 businesses a year. That's a big goal.
Thank you.
That's a lot. My goal for next year is 500 businesses. So, and that's 2 a day. That's quite a bit as well, right? On a one-on-one basis, right? I hope to help many, many more passively through interviews like this, but directly, yes.
That's what I'm sure you're helping thousands with this, because everything you do here is gonna, just that little 2 millimeter adjustment can change the complete trajectory of your business.
Absolutely. Little bitty changes make giant impacts on your business. Stuff like just how you're communicating in your emails can really change how your business is run and how you get your leads, and just a tremendous amount of stuff. And we use split testing to kind of determine what the best method is, but
split testing, A/B testing, right?
Right. You try multiple things at the same time, right? And the one that works better, you stick with, right? But then you A/B that one, you A/B test that one with something new as well, and you're constantly doing that whole dance.
That's the secret to marketing, is testing and measuring.
Absolutely. I find it to be the secret to almost everything. You have a system, and you have these 4 cornerstones of a business. So if somebody's going to go into business for themselves, what are the 4 fundamental things that every business owner should start with before they think about marketing, before they think about systems and all that other stuff?
So building a business is like building a house. And when you build a house, you start with your foundation. And this is what so many entrepreneurs and people that get started don't get, that foundation strong enough. And as they start building, it collapses. So the 4 cornerstones are: 1, time, your most valuable asset; ultimate goal, what do you want your business to look like when it's done; standards, consistency in your product or service; and financials, you must know your numbers.
Fantastic. So let's dive into each one of those, right? Because those are kind of big concepts to have. And, what are some fundamental tips for each one of those settings? Because I know, just like having a child, if you wait until you have enough money to be successful, you'll never start the business, right? So there's some caveats there.
Yeah, so the number one, the major cornerstone, and what Brainshare is all about is time. Because time is your most valuable asset. As an entrepreneur, you're wearing multiple hats. You're the CEO, and you're probably the VP of marketing, and the VP of sales, and the COO, and the CFO, and you got to wear all these hats.
Sometimes you're the plumber.
Sometimes you're the plumber, and the chief bottler, and you're taking out everything. Yep. And you can be successful when you're in the right modality, but when you bounce between modalities is where things start losing efficiencies and effectiveness. So one of the core things is time blocking into a modality. And that's what your time cornerstone is all about. What percentage of time do you need to be spending in sales, in marketing, in operations, in CEO mode? What percentage of time, and then allocating that time to accomplish those tasks. That's cornerstone number one. Cornerstone number two is the ultimate goal. What do you want your business to look like when you exit? Because you can't take it with you. So what does that look like? What is the long-term goal? And then break that down into your short-term goals. And those goals must be SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, results-oriented, and time-framed. If they're not, it's not a SMART goal, it's just a dream, it's a hallucination, you might as well just, go. It's not a goal. You can't actually allocate the time to achieve those goals if you don't have it as a SMART goal. And that's a key fundamental that so many people, their calendars are just wide open. Humans are like water and electricity. They go through the path of least resistance. If you're not allocating your time and actually consciously making decisions on what you need to do when, you're going to do something that's not the best thing for your business.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's not on the calendar, it probably won't get done, right? There's this law called Parkinson's law that says a task takes as long as you give it the time to do it. So the beautiful thing about waiting to the last minute to do stuff is that it only takes 1 minute to do. But it probably isn't a high quality product if that's the way you're running your entire business.
Well, this is a fun little tool that I use that says, okay, I'm going to allocate 30 minutes to do this. And then I put on my timer, boom, that dinger goes off. I go to my next task, just like in school, when the bell rings, you go to your next class.
And then you've got the next one is standards. Tell us a little about standards.
So standards is all about consistency in your product or service. McDonald's got to be the biggest because they were the first ones to really be consistent. So when you're starting out, you're probably consistent because you're doing the work. But as you start expanding, how do you ensure consistency in your product or service? It's all about training and processes, checklists. Ensure that you've got a standardized process in place so anybody can follow it. De-skill it down to a core process.
I want to hear your input on the finance part of what you need to get started, because I have a whole bunch of different opinions there, and I'd love to hear your input.
Well, finance to me is like your report card, okay? Sometimes you don't like to see it, but it tells you where you're at. It is your business report card. So you need to know, certain things, not only your hard numbers, but kind of your soft numbers. So you need your revenue, your gross profit, your fixed cost, your net profit, those numbers, your ratios. But you also need to know how many leads you need to get with your current conversion rate to give you the number of customers you need with your average dollar sale, or your average dollar sale number of transactions gives you your revenue and your margin. You need to know both of those numbers and monitor them. And as you adjust your marketing and sales, you'll see the changes. You can do the A/B testing that we were just talking about a minute ago.
And on that part, you're not going to really know until you get into the nitty gritty, right? You're not going to have your cost per acquisition, your cost per lead, and all of those things. And when I say cost per acquisition, I mean what it costs you to acquire a new customer, right? That's your advertising dollar, it's your labor, it's all of those things.
You're not going to know that until you get moving, and it's probably going to take you 2 years to get actually any data, and you still won't know. You can estimate out or extrapolate out your lifetime value and your customer acquisition costs.
Right.
And those are two numbers you have to know to set your marketing budget.
And then lifetime value, you're not going to know until you maybe sometimes 10 years into business, right? Because you have some customers that stay for a long time. You got to get those averages down.
That's
I
right.
just want to go back and like actionable things that people can do on each one of these foundation pieces. For me, my time, I call it feeding the animals. Every morning I've got on my calendar between 9 and 10 a.m. I've got literally 15 minutes come in and say hi to my staff. I don't always successfully do that, but I do my best every single day. And then I take the next 45 minutes and I allocate it to my checkbook. It doesn't take me 45 minutes every day to balance my checkbook. And then obviously I've got all these podcasts and things that I do on my schedule. But then I take single days. I'm like, okay, on Mondays, I'm going to work on marketing. And Tuesdays, Wednesday, Thursday, I do these podcasts. On Friday, I really do a deep dive into finance.
So you know your modalities and your biorhythms, so you set your calendar based on those biorhythms.
Right.
Here's my 3 things that you must do with your calendar. First of all, every morning, plan your day. Every evening, review your day and plan the next day. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And then have breaks in the morning, afternoon, and a lunch. That way, you've got a time block to switch between modalities. And I discuss this in my book, Brainshare. The 3 main things: plan your day, review your day, breaks in the middle to switch modalities. Now,
I'm going to pop in one more tip there. On your email is a huge cause of anxiety on people. Literally, schedule of 20 minutes in the morning to delete all your spam and get rid of it. And then schedule another 20 minutes to follow up on all your action items. And then don't look at your email again for a few hours, right? Literally schedule email time throughout the day. Because if you're sitting there picking off one-offs all day long, you'll never get anywhere.
Turn off your email and check it between 3 and 5 times a day, and only for 15 minutes. Use your timer. Otherwise, you'll get sucked into email and you won't accomplish what you need to for those days. So schedule your email time. Schedule your follow-up time so that you make your phone calls. I have one client that actually, their answering says, I'll be returning phone calls between 1 and 2 o'clock during the day. I want to go back to the plan your day, review your day on something that's critical that we're not taught in school. Okay. So I have clients that say, well, why do I need to review my day and plan the next day? And then all I do is sleep and then I plan my day again. Well, your subconscious mind while you're sleeping works twice as hard as when you're awake. So we can use our subconscious sleep time to actually fix problems without our conscious mind being involved. So when we go to bed, we say, okay, I got to worry about this tomorrow. You wake up and you go, ooh, I'm a genius. You get that morning genius thing. Well, that's because your subconscious mind actually worked on the problem while you were sleeping. So review the day, plan your next day. In the morning, when you wake up, you're going to have pieces or golden nuggets that are going to help you throughout the day to get things done much more effectively and efficiently.
That is fantastic information to have. I know that I do a meditation at night before bed. I do a meditation every night before bed and every morning when I wake up. My nighttime meditation is about a 45-minute routine, and my morning is like a 5 or 10-minute kind of quick like a gratitude meditation or something like that.
Well, and having those routines is critical. You know, my morning routine is meditation, gratitudes, and then how many people am I going to help today? My evening one is the gratitudes, and then 20 minutes of reading. Because if you want to earn more, learn more.
Absolutely.
All these books are about, if you're an entrepreneur or you're in business and you're stuck, one of these books has already found the problem and the solution. You just got to find out which book it is because there's a lot of them out there.
Absolutely. The 2 books, the number one book that I two recommended books that I have, 3 really, is Think and Grow Rich is absolutely a must.
Napoleon Hill. Yep,
Who
right
Moved
there.
My Cheese is, I think, an absolute must. And you should have your entire team read that book so that you can all speak the same language.
Spencer Johnson.
My third is The Phoenix Project, but that's because I'm in IT. And it's a really great book.
Here's mine. Traction by Gino Wickman.
Okay.
Scaling Up by Vern Harnish. And E-Myth Revisited for the ones that are starting out by Michael Gerber. If you're just getting started, Michael Gerber's E-Myth Revisited. And then as you start moving up, Traction by Gino Wickman will get you moving. And then Scaling Up by Vern Harnish. And you'll get to that profitable enterprise that works without you. And if you're not sure, give me a call. I actually have a list of 100 recommended books for entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. I should probably publish my list, right? Because I'm constantly going through them, and there's a lot of great information. I am not a reader, but I listen to books nonstop, and the tip there is I can't go past 1.2 on my speed, but some people, if you can get there, you can go 2 times the speed and rock through these books and get this information embedded in you. The other thing that I'd really recommend on books like Think and Grow Rich or Rich Dad Poor Dad is don't read them one time. Read them over and over and over until they become part of who you are. Reading it one time and putting it on the shelf doesn't really do it, right? You got to study that book and really know it.
Oh, well, it's a funny story. I got a book called The Science of Success by Wallace Wattles, written at the same time Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich. And I got it about 20 years ago, and I started reading it, and I threw it away. I thought it was a bunch of garbage. Well, I actually quote out of that book now and recommend it. So as we evolve, we'll get different learnings out of the things that we're reading and engaging with. The other thing is you don't necessarily have to read. Like you mentioned, Ken, audiobooks, fantastic. Abstracts. Most books are got 80% fluff, 20% information. The abstracts give you that 20% information, and then if you want to dive in deeper, get the book or listen to the audio. That's a tip that I recommend.
So I have the book right behind me all the time, and I literally read the first line of Think and Grow Rich every day, and its desire is the starting point of all achievement, right?
Yep.
So and I read it out multiple times a day. It's sitting right behind me every time I walk in this room, which is 5 or 10 times a day. I read that line.
Well, and it gets ingrained and becomes part of who you are.
Absolutely. So now let's go on to setting goals.
Yes. Well,
I hate
a business doesn't change till the owner does. And to change, you've got to learn more. And part of that is setting your goal. Now, when we go to set goals, you can set your 5-year, your 10-year, but it comes down to most people can't think more than 90 days in the future. So you've got to break your goal down 5-year, 3-year, 1 year, and then break it down into months and create a roadmap for the year and review it at least on a monthly basis. And they must be specific, measurable, achievable results or in a time frame. I hear this one. Well, what's your goal? Well, make more money. Okay, I give you $1. You just made more money. You're done.
You're done.
Yeah. No, how much more money? Because more money to you and me may be very different than it is to Mark Cuban or somebody else. So what's that specific number?
And for me, it helps me get to that specific number when I think about my why.
Yes.
Right. So, that helps me really get to my goals. And I don't like the word goals. My therapist is working on this with me because I like milestones. Right. She's like, they're the same damn thing. Ken, get over it.
No. But that's a big deal because whatever resonates with you, use it. Because that's why there's so many books. Half of them say the same thing, but they resonate with different people. Use milestones. I love that.
Yeah.
Instead of goals, it's okay. Everybody's unique. Find out what works for you and do it. So setting those milestones is critical and then reviewing them. Now, I hear this, well, what happens if I don't have it? I'll be disappointed. You know what? If you set your milestone for 120, you only get to 100, guess what? It's a whole lot better than 50 and getting to 40.
Absolutely. And I think that setting the milestones is, or the goals, whatever you want to call them, they're really the same thing. Is if you don't enjoy the process of getting to those goals, you're not going to get there. If you're not really looking at that goal every single day of, okay, I got to get this done. I got to get it done. How do I get it done? What I think most people will find out is that if they put their mind to it and they focus on it every day, if they don't get there and blow through it, they're probably going to get really damn close.
Well, and the piece that I heard that I always incorporate in there is allocate the time to do it. And it's like, I had a client yesterday. I said, they didn't meet one of their goals. I said, was it on your calendar to work on? They said no. And I said, congratulations. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, you did exactly what you were supposed to. You weren't supposed to do it. It wasn't on your calendar.
Wasn't on the calendar, didn't get done. It's pretty much that simple.
It is that simple. Here's an interesting stat. People that use lists to manage where they're going,
right.
17% probability of getting them done.
Okay.
When it's on your calendar, 80% probability of getting it done.
Yeah, my calendar's 100%.
No, mine isn't, because sometimes I go, you know what? I'm not going to do that because it's not the best thing for my business now. When I put it on there, it may have been.
Right.
That's okay.
I've actually hired somebody to manage my calendar for me. So, and you met Debbie. She's great. She keeps me in line, and I'm bad at it. So I've taken it away from myself, and I've allocated that job to somebody else. Like, you tell me where I need to be, when I need to be there, and I'll just follow your rule, and I'll ignore the rest of it. That works really well for me.
Congratulations. Finding out what works for you is a key thing. This is like in the sales. Sometimes people say, "Oh, what do I need to do for sales? What scripting should I do?" Well, the most powerful thing in sales is yourself. It's you. And when we realize that, it's kind of like Kung Fu Panda. The most powerful thing in sales is yourself. I don't know if you haven't watched Kung Fu Panda.
Not in a minute. My daughter is 14 and my son's 10, so I probably not seen it in about 5 years.
Yeah, go back and watch the end of that, and so it's fun because you're like, oh wow, the most powerful thing in sales is be yourself. But that doesn't mean that you don't train your team to be consistently with the same messaging. It doesn't have to be the same words, but it's got to get the same feeling. When if you got a brick and mortar store, how do you greet people? Hey, welcome to Mom and Pop's Donut Shop. Here's our specialty today, or whatever it is, so that when they come in, you've got those expectations and you meet them every single time, and that's all about standard.
All right, so let's talk about standards then. Right, we're off goals and right on to standards. How did that happen? Looks like you've done this before.
just a couple of times. So standards is all about consistency in your product or service. Okay. So if it's a product, you've got a quality control process and put in place. If you've got a service, that's harder to get consistency in as you start scaling. So when it's you, you're very consistent when you're doing this, Ken, because it's you doing it, right?
Absolutely.
Now, if you had 3 other people starting to host these for you, how are you going to make sure you got that same feeling that you provide?
It's challenging.
It's challenging. Well, and it's training and processes, and it really comes down to training and processes.
So I've been a service provider since my mid-20s, right? So this is the game that I've been living in, either building websites, hosting websites, building data centers. But I've also built them for myself, but I've done them for clients, Fortune 500 companies even. And the consistency part is, like you said, in services is really hard. What advice would you have to somebody that maybe has 200 clients in a service base and they're cranking 200, your MSP, you've got 200 clients, you're probably 1.5 to 2.5 million a year, and you're very consistent in all your processes. And the big guy comes in and says, hey, I understand how you're doing this, but I can't be your client unless you do these things differently than how you do them for all of your other clients. What would you recommend that client to? What would you recommend that guy to do?
Well, that's a very interesting question, because then you really need to do an analysis of your business, and is it something you maybe should be doing for your other clients, or is it something that this is way off the thing, and I'm not going to do that, or hey, maybe you split your company into 2 separate companies. There's several options here, but this gets into what I call the decision-making process. And I actually have a video on this where you say, okay, well, you could do nothing, or what's the other extreme? And there's usually 3 to 5 options in between there. And then you could do a weighted pros and cons analysis, or a quantitative pros and cons analysis, or a weighted decision matrix to decide how to move forward. One of the hardest things for entrepreneurs to do is make decisions to move forward. No decision keeps you stagnant. So most of the time, any decision is better than no decision.
Absolutely.
So do a quantitative analysis on what makes the most sense for you in that decision to achieve your ultimate goal.
I have personally made that mistake multiple times chasing the dollar, right? Oh, you want it different? Oh, yeah. We're not professionals in that software, but we do know it and we can learn it really fast. And I think that methodology is absolutely okay. But if you're going to go down that path, you better damn charge for the research that you're going to have to do to support that client at the level of which they expect.
That's right.
I think you said that it's hard for entrepreneurs to make a decision, and I think it's hard for entrepreneurs to make the decision that ends in a no. Like, no,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that, right? That's a really, really hard decision, especially when somebody's like, I want to give you money to do this for me. And you're thinking, well, I could hire 3 more staff members and do this and this and this, right? Now, how can I grow? Because we're all about growth. That's all we really, at the end of the day, I think all entrepreneurs want to do is grow. They don't care about, if it's an inch or a mile, they don't care as long as they're growing today. So, and it's really hard to say no to that money, but sometimes you have to, specifically in a service industry where you're going to now have to maintain this forever. It's different if you're building chairs and somebody comes and says, hey, can you build me a custom chair? I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to pull a couple contractors off to build this for you, and that's going to take me 2 weeks. I'll do that. In a service, you might have to service that service forever, right? Because you're in that contract, and you might, if you make a mistake, if you're in a bad contract and you're the provider, it's not a pretty place to be.
So a couple of rules of thumb. If you're going to go down that path, 3x whatever you think it's going to take.
Yes.
So if you think it's going to take 1 week, it's going to take 3 weeks.
Absolutely.
If you think it's going to take $10,000, it's going to take $30,000.
Yep.
Use the 3x. Also, you mentioned about a book, whether you know it or not. Start with no.
Okay. I've not read that one. I'll add it to my list.
Yeah. Start with no is
I think you're talking to my wife, Joe.
The other one was SOS. So
Okay.
SOS, entrepreneurs have a tendency to get SOS. That's shiny object syndrome.
Yep.
There's money over here. Oh, money over here. And they lose focus.
Yes.
Follow one course until success. Acronym for focus, follow one course until success. Keep away from SOS, shiny object syndrome.
All right, now on to the last one of your 4 cornerstones or the foundation, which is the finance, which is a little more, it's not as fun. I mean, this is what we're all in it for, right? Is the money at the end of the day. But budgeting for new build outs is time consuming and boring, and forecasts are, guesswork at best a lot of times, especially if you have no history of your business. How do you forecast your first 2 years? That's really, it's all made up.
It's all a guess. It's what I call a swag. Swag is scientific, wild, audacious guess.
Right.
You do the best you can, but at least you've got kind of a roadmap to go down. And the key to me in finance is setting up your chart of accounts so that you know what you're managing, and then review them on at least a monthly basis, and you can start getting your trend going. If you're not reviewing your financials on a monthly basis, you're going to get in trouble really soon. There's a couple of great books that I recommend. These are my 2 favorite books on finance.
Financial intelligence and how to read a financial report. Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
So is that how to read a P&L, basically?
Yes, how to read a P&L. Well, what's the balance sheet mean? And then cash flow. So
right.
Cash is king, but to get to cash flow and actually understanding that, you got to start with P&L and your balance sheet, and then you get to cash flow and projecting that. So the basics, profit and loss, which I can make that stuff change.
Well, if you talk about depreciation, you can make it swing the whole lot of different ways, right? So you got to really know how to understand that, how to read that document.
Yeah, exactly. It's what does a good accountant say when you ask him what's 1 + 1? What do you want it to be?
What do you need it to be? Yeah.
But you as a business owner need to understand the financials. It's your report card. Is it exciting and fun like marketing and sales? No.
Right.
But it is a key success factor. It's part of the cornerstones of your business.
Absolutely.
And those 4 cornerstones are a must before you start moving into market positioning, which is unique selling proposition, target market, target market, target market. Yes, that's 3 times because that is the most important. And then a guarantee, and then you put your sales training together, and then your marketing plan. Always, my suggestion, always do sales training before you go spend money on marketing, because if your conversion rate is bad, marketing is what costs you money. It's typically your biggest investment, and if your conversion rate isn't strong, you're wasting money. So get your conversion rate up, sales training, and ensure you've got that in place before you start investing in all your marketing strategies.
Absolutely. That's great advice. I do want to take one step back to standards. And
Sorry.
One thing that we did in our company, and I think I did it probably 5 or 6 years ago, and I forget what book I got this from, but it's Southwest did it, and it really changed Southwest's entire, and that's creating a SMAC. And that's a systematic, methodical, and consistent rule set for your companies. You talked about standards for the product and the offer, but in your company and your company culture is wildly important. It's more important today than it's ever been because it's an employee's marketplace today, not an employer's marketplace. So having your methodical rule set for how your company culture is going to be, how you're going to pay your staff, how you're going to have your dress code, all of those things need to be in place and ready to go. And a SMAC is a great way to do that.
And written down.
Absolutely.
It doesn't exist unless it's written down, and a company culture is defined by the worst behavior a leader is willing to tolerate.
The worst behavior the leader is willing to tolerate. Oh boy, I tolerate a lot, but
Is it? I am not saying anything.
well, there's some things that I don't tolerate at all, right? But weird personalities are definitely something I have to tolerate on a regular basis. Which I actually enjoy dealing with, so it's okay.
Well, but that's diversity. That's different thinking to me. To me, you need that. If everybody thought the same way I did, I wouldn't need anybody. I'd just make all the decisions myself, right?
Right, absolutely.
So you need those different personality styles to provide that input. I mean, Napoleon Hill talks about this in his mastermind.
Absolutely.
Abraham Lincoln, after the war, he brought in very diverse thinking. So that's where the power is, in that diverse thinking, and that's what gets us to achieve our ultimate goal. If you're going to make all the decisions, you don't need anybody.
Right. All right, Joe, I think that's about it for today's show. I so much appreciate your time. If somebody wanted to work with you, how would they get in contact with you?
Well, you can give me a ring at 408-899-6737, and my team will schedule an appointment with me. You can go to my website at brainsharecoach.com and schedule a time, or send me an email at joe@brainsharecoach.com.
Fantastic, Joe. Thank you so much for your time today. I had a blast. Do you have any tidbits that you'd like to leave the listeners before we go?
Hey, set your goals, allocate your time, and make it happen, because the more money you make, the more people you can help. And that's what it's all about to me, is helping more people in this world, in this universe.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Joe. That's it for today's episode, folks. Again, my name is Ken. If you'd like to join my text line community, the number is 314-370-2871. Get to work.